Ari Melber is here. MSNBC Cruz Show, Power 106.
Yes.
Ari!
What up, Ari?
You know what it is.
You know what it is. See, that's that hip hop influence. You know, Ari has a lot of hip hop on his show. That's why we were like, yo, get him up here. That's my guy, right? Fat Joe, Vic Mensa. Who else? French Montana. Who else has been on the show?
French Montana. And we're pursuing people. Next week we have Dave East out of Harlem coming on. Very excited about that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, very exciting.
Is there a hip hop artist that you've been pursuing for a while now and you have not been able to get them on?
Well,
and is it Kanye West?
It won't be a secret to people who watch the show. Jay-Z has been pursued. We are at a stand level of just throwing out love that is not returned. You know, it is like
one-way combos.
Yeah, right. One-way convo, writing the fan letter.
Do you feel like a groupie though, right? Because you're like, yo, bro, like I'm trying to reach out to you. You're not answering back.
I feel like more than a groupie. I feel like a groupie's groupie. You know, I feel like layers of it. And that's because I use lyrics sometimes to explain the news. And
I love
quote,
how you drop hip hop quotes in your stories. I love that, man.
Thank you. And I quote Jay probably more than anyone. Yeah. So, but I've had. Look, I'll say this: the conversations I had with his people were perfectly cordial and warm. But it didn't leave me with the impression that he's coming on the beat.
Yeah, that doesn't get me the Jay-Z in the seat, though. You know what I'm saying?
No.
Dude, would you interview Donald Trump? You would, right?
Of course.
What hip-hop artist would you sit down with Donald Trump?
I think Kanye, who obviously has already met with him, would be fascinating because part of what Donald Trump does that we know, but it doesn't mean that as a society we figured out how to deal with, is shock and troll at a constant basis in a way that you have to respond to. Because if you call a bunch of countries S-hole or you call people these names, to not respond is to somehow say it's okay and it's not, and yet we also know that's what he's doing. Kanye does that too in a different way. So putting two loud trolls together,
that could be great TV. That could be great TV.
That would be great.
Oh yeah, that's like having lesbians on. You know what I'm saying?
Cruz.
Fire TV. Have you ever had any lesbians?
Well, we believe in having all kinds of people on.
That's
How about
right,
that?
bro. Nobody gets turned away.
How about that? Yeah.
How about that? How about that? Right? Yo, listen. So we love the hip hop fact about the show. You're a hip hop head. Did you grow up on hip hop?
I grew up going to Garfield High School in Seattle, which is where Jimi Hendrix and Quincy Jones went.
Okay.
Macklemore was actually a year behind me there.
You went to school with Macklemore?
Do you remember him from high school?
Not really, but my friends remember him because they have amazing marching band, amazing music scene.
Sure.
And so I know people. My friend Aaron Walker Loud, who's still a drummer and involved in a collective up there, he knew him then and remembers him. So it was always 1 degree apart.
Was he nerdy or was he always like very cool?
So Garfield was a school where you had to have something. Like it was a little bit of a rougher, around the edges school, great school.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I didn't know him personally, but like you weren't making it through Garfield without figuring out what your angle was.
Got it.
He had a little swag to him.
Yeah, right.
I would think.
Did you ever want to rap?
I love rap. I was around rap, but it's always more as a fan thing for me.
So you respect it enough not to rap.
Exactly.
My guy. Yeah.
Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
You got to know.
Bro. I feel you.
Yeah. You got to know.
Yeah, you have to know. MSNBC, they consider it, well, they don't, when I say they, the Trump administration says it's fake news. How do you respond to that?
There's two things going on in the media right now that will be very recognizable to anyone around hip-hop culture, which is people trying to tell you what's real and what's not based on what they want to happen.
Okay.
Right? And that's a power move. It's like Donald Trump's trying to tell you this isn't real. Why? Well, maybe he's threatened by it, right? And two, people are trying to tell you things don't matter. Why? Well, because they don't want things to matter. They want to get away with stuff. So it's a device. Our job is to not get shook by it and constantly be fighting with him over what's fake news or not, but also to show to our viewers, like, the wider context is you have politicians that don't want you to know what's up. They don't want you to know the truth. So they might attack NBC one day, they might attack Power 106 the next day, they might attack, Donald Trump picks fights with people in the culture, right? Attacks actresses and Oscars and musicians. And why? Well, he sees, it appears, any of that as a threat to his authority, right? Which you see in other regimes as well, in other countries. So that's what it comes to. Our job is kind of to help people understand, like, that's what's going on, but not to get into a fight every day. If I wanted to fight the White House every day and be in that, if I wanted to have a rap battle level beef with Sarah Huckabee Sanders every day, we could do that. I just don't think it would be useful.
Sure. Yeah. Dude, I know, right? News beef would be amazing, by the way. If you beefed out with somebody else, that'd be kind of funny, man.
Get up in Anderson Cooper's Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
And just be like,
just diss
if
him
you
in his
thought,
comments.
if you thought Tekashi 6ix9ine in the game was real, Wait till I find old pictures.
Yo.
Yeah, no.
What about the people on the gram and on YouTube, right? Conspiracy theorists, right? That say news media outlets are brainwashing the American public.
Well, TV news has a lot of influence.
Yeah.
I worked for a senator on Capitol Hill, and I could see that sometimes what was on the news became what everyone else talked about.
Sure.
So then when you say, oh, people in the streets care about XYZ, well, partly that's because it was on TV. Look at when Black Lives Matter is saying this shouldn't be normal, and every time an unarmed person is shot, we should deal with it. And more often than not, statistically, it's an unarmed black person, right? Getting that onto TV changes the conversation, at least to some degree. So I understand why people say, well, wait a minute, if this is corporate media and you decide what's on there, then you have a lot of power, right? Well, the job for us, I think, is to try to take that seriously.
Cece, let me ask you, is
Yes.
there a hip-hop artist that should be in politics?
Yes, there's a hip hop artist that I would love to for you to sit him down with Donald Trump.
Who?
Talib Kweli.
Talib would be kind of dope.
love
We had Talib on the
Kweli.
show. We had Talib on.
Yeah, oh, he's great.
He's brilliant. Yeah.
I think Hove would do really good in politics. Jay-Z.
Yes.
Diddy might do well in politics.
You think Diddy?
I think Diddy might do well. Sure.
I think he might do well in campaigning.
His campaign would be fire.
Yes, it
Tekashi
would.
would be good for campaigning.
Earn media.
He gets the message out.
Earn media.
Tekashi gets the message
Yeah.
out.
Right?
Yeah,
Tekashi
okay.
reporting on fake news with fake hip-hop.
Yeah.
I get it.
Oh,
Kid-
stop. Leave it alone.
I'm
It is
kidding.
what it is.
I'm
It's
kidding,
what it is.
dog. I'm kidding.
Kid with rainbow hair got the whole Congress what do he say? Agitated is what he says.
You got them all out
Is
of their character.
Tekashi 6ix9ine for real? Is this real music?
All I know is he lets his ballots hang. You know what I mean?
You know what? I think
There
his
he
music's
is.
okay. I just think that the message is a little misconstrued.
What is the message? I mean, I just
He's
because
the best in hip hop. He's the king.
King of New York.
He's a troll. He wants to be the biggest troll in hip-hop.
there's a lot of because social media has made an incentive structure, right?
Sure.
Where being not just bad, but just be. I don't mean bad like evil. I just mean being ridiculous is rewarded. And so now we're talking about whether someone's ridiculous. We're not talking about the music, right?
Sure,
There's always been
sure.
elements of that, but I just want because and I see that with other, you see these artists like Lil Yachty, and I'm like, are we talking about your music? Or are we talking about your lifestyle?
Sure,
Right.
sure.
And no
yeah.
shade if we're talking about your lifestyle because there's
think you're right. I think
there's
being
successful brands built around
Right,
that.
Being
right.
ridiculous is glorified now.
Is the wave. Yeah. And mediocre content is a wave as well.
Right, because I came into it for music. It's like sometimes people are like talk about the personal lives or who's dating whom, and I'm like, I didn't even know. I mean, there came something came up with Remy Ma, and I was like, oh, I didn't even know she was with Papoose, and someone was like, how do you not know that? That's like hip hop relationship royalty, and I was like,
Right.
because I'm not when I follow, I'm really following music and what's close to the music,
Sure.
not always the lifestyle.
Yeah.
But nowadays, you could be 18 and have a pop in Instagram, and like people say you're a rapper, and I'm like, are you even a rapper?
Right. Or now, Instagram models are big right now, too.
Oh yeah.
You
Oh
know?
yeah.
Lil Wayne has a song about that.
Straight up. What's up? Let's just.
Instagram models.
So for your hip hop news, do you ever find yourself going on World Star or the Shade Room?
I go.
To prep.
I'm just saying.
To prep.
I'm
Yeah.
just saying. Or
You
Power
follow
106.
Fashion Nova?
First of all, shout out to Power 106.
Yeah.
Right? I'm here. I got here.
My
So
guy.
I figured something out. I definitely keep an eye on. Here's what I do. I keep an eye on World Star Instagram account. But I don't think that I'm like going. When you say World Star, like their
Well,
website.
I mean, on the IG for the most part, Instagram.
To
On the
prep and
Instagram,
stuff, yeah.
I go on the Instagram. I use Rap Genius a lot when I want to like understand or I see a new
That's right.
thing, a new song I want to get
The
into.
lyrics are there. Rap Genius, yeah.
And then I don't know. Then it's the random sites that you end up on. You don't know how you end up on them. You like end up on hip hop, hip hop DX.
Love Hip Hop DX.
Okay, but I'm not like having eggs in the morning. And be like, let me like log on to the New York Times and Hip Hop DX. It's not like how I start my day.
Sure.
But you end up there.
You got to go to Media Takeout.
Oh, Media Takeout's good too.
Stay away from me to
It's
take
so
out.
ratchet.
I
dog.
love it, though.
Media
That-
Takeout is so ratchet, dog.
It's my guilty pleasure.
Oh my God, that's fake news.
Definitely.
That sounds could have some fake news in there. Yeah.
Yeah, straight up, man. Ari Melber, my guy, hip hop head. Dude, Power 106. This is Power 106, #1 for hip hop. Do you listen to Power? You ever find yourself checking in? Honestly.
I listen to when I'm out here. Like I had Power on in my rental Honda yesterday.
My man.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
Yes.
Very
And I
nice.
come out of New York, so
You
we
listen to Hot 97 out
we
there?
listen to radio, so Hot 97 and 105 Breakfast Club and all that.
Right.
Definitely. When I'm in New York, am Am I getting like the carrier pigeon drone to find Power 106 out
Bro,
of
there's
New
an
York?
app for that, bro.
There's an app. Maybe I need to get the app. Power 106 app. Shout it out.
Phone before you
Download it. Global.
Plug
Let's go
everything in.
global.
Yeah, right.
No, you know what? Let's make that move together. I'm gonna download that app.
I have a question really
I'm
quick.
downloading the MSNBC app as well.
There it is.
I read
The
somewhere
Beat.
that
3 p.m.
you were-
Pacific.
The Beat, the
3
Beat.
p.m. Pacific.
I read somewhere you were with, you campaigned with Barack Obama.
I traveled, so I didn't campaign, but I was on the plane in 08 covering it.
How was Barack Obama? I love him. That's my president.
So
Still.
what was wild then was it was before he was President Obama.
Sure.
And it's like those moments in your life when you're like, something could go either way, and you know if it goes the right way afterward, everyone's gonna be like, oh yeah, that always worked out, or oh yeah, now you're a DJ, or now people recognize you, but you remember before that.
Right.
Well, the presidency is obviously the ultimate version of that, and we were on the campaign plane, and we were showing up these rallies for big crowds. People were like, seems like this is gonna happen, and then there was always that undercurrent of, back then, okay, maybe there's big crowds, but maybe at the end of the day, in the booth, right? Beanie Siegel said the truth every time I step in the booth.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the voting booth,
That's right.
the question is the truth going to be, maybe people really aren't going to pull the lever for an African-American to be president, right?
Right.
So being out there was very interesting watching him, and he really didn't miss. He was really on his poise 100% of the time.
Sure.
So you'd be on the plane, back of the plane, late night, 5 rallies, leftover food, because it's like nonstop, and you could just
That's the
see
life of a politician, though, yeah?
Yeah, but some of them are way more messy, to use a political term.
Right.
They get a little messy, a little
But
spicy.
he was always
He was
very
like,
poised.
he was like on some meditation shit.
It was almost on some. It was almost like on a JFK vibe, I think.
I mean, that's before my time, but they talked about, they use this Italian word for JFK. Do you know this? This is actually a good word for hip hop. Sprezzatura,
Okay.
Presatura.
and that's effortless excellence.
Ah.
It's
I
not.
thought you were gonna go with Gumar.
What's that?
We know JFK had him.
Okay, maybe I don't want to know.
Presatura.
It's a
So-
side chick.
So they said
Sprezzatura.
JFK had sprezzatura, not just excellence, but kind of effortless. And there were times look, Barack Obama's a human being. He made mistakes. I could criticize him as a reporter. I do. But if we're talking about that, what it felt like before he became president, being out there with him and seeing that poise from a person, that was what I remember the most. Because I didn't know. It was like, maybe he won't be president, right? He was, by the end, by October, he had this lead. But yeah, seeing that poise. It's always interesting seeing people right before they make their move,
Sure. Yeah.
You know?
Because then you see why they did or why they didn't.
Right.
Straight up, right? Hey, listen, Ari Melber, MSNBC, The Beat. You got to watch it. It's fire. What hip hop song describes Donald Trump?
I'll give you one. 10 Crack Commandments, because he's breaking so many of them. Like, keep your
Is he getting
family,
high on his own
keep your
supply?
family and business completely separated.
Yes.
What?
Preach.
Yes.
Don't get high on your own supply. It's fine if you want to like put out some stuff in the community for whatever reason,
Right.
Everyone has certain delusions, but when you start believing your own lies,
Yeah.
you're in trouble.
And that
Yeah.
credit,
You know?
forget it. You know what I'm
Credit,
saying?
forget it. I think there's a lot of credit. He said he's the king of debt, right?
Right.
He won't release the tax returns probably because there's a lot of Deutsche Bank debt on there. So
Straight
credit, debt it. You think a crackhead's paying you back? Forget it.
Yeah.
And then also, don't sell no crack where you live at.
yeah, straight up.
Which what is that now? Crack. See, a lot of people hear hip hop and they think of it very literally, like, oh, crack. Well, I don't deal crack, so that's not relevant to me.
Sure.
I'm a lawyer. I would tell everyone, do not get involved in crack or the drug game, obviously. But what Christopher Wallace is talking about there goes deeper. It's about crime. It's about choices. It's about mistakes. It's
Yeah.
about what do you do when you're desperate.
Step-by-step booklet.
And so don't sell crack where you live at is also a saying of like, if you have to make a bad decision or do a crime, don't do it in your home.
Yeah.
And what's Donald Trump doing? Allegedly, well, there are reports that he is committing the crime of obstruction of justice right out the White House.
Mm-hmm.
So I just gave you like 4 laws he broke.
He's selling dope out of his house. You feel me? Is what he's doing.
Right?
You know,
Right?
he turned the White House into the crack house,
Right.
my G.
Right. And so those laws, those commandments, that really does give you a window into what people call the criminal mindset, right?
Sure.
And, what is crime? I think about this a lot as a lawyer and someone who covers law on TV. What is crime, right? Crime is not just bad things, right? In America for a long time, getting married across different races was a crime.
Yeah, there's certain levels
Right.
to it. Yeah, sure.
People who are of the same gender getting married in Texas was a crime until the Supreme Court said that can't be a crime anymore. So now some things you say, oh, well, battery and assault are crimes, right? And they hopefully, presumably will always be crimes because that's something no one should ever do. But other crimes you learn over time are a product of our social mores at the time, right? So when you think about how much hip hop talks about crime and law and what's fair, or how crimes are dealt out in a society based on who has power, right? Then you're going deeper. And so I always find that funny because sometimes when I use the lyrics on air, there's some pushback. People are like, oh, is that glorifying this or that? And you're like, not if you really listen.
Sure. Yeah. Did you have to convince MSNBC to use hip hop? Were the producers tripping?
No, I mean, what I really value this, anytime you compliment your boss or your employer, people are like, okay, of course. But they take editorial freedom pretty seriously. And that's journalism, and it works. We have to have facts. We have to check ourselves. We have to self-correct if we make a mistake. But they take that pretty seriously. And so they've always been really open about that and letting me do my work as long as it's factual, and I really value that.
Yeah, and they have to trust you, right? Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah, straight up, man.
I mean,
Where do you keep the Emmy?
I keep the Emmy in my office. First, before I had The Beat, 3 p.m. Pacific,
That's
3 p.m.
right.
Pacific,
My
y'all.
guy, MSNBC.
Download the app.
I kept it at home because being in a solo office, I was like really honored to get this Emmy, but like keeping it in my solo office just felt too much.
Why?
But now, because it's like, I don't know, trophies, but it just was too much. Now when we launched the show, The Beat, now I brought it back in and put it in the office because now I have a team, and I'm like, all right, now we're a team. I'm like, let's get another one of these as a team.
Right.
So I feel like there's a reason for it to be there.
You want to be real hip hop with a dog? Either put it on a necklace,
Hang it, Lil Jon.
right? Or just have it right next to you, dog, on TV.
Just every time we start the show.
That's good.
Take it to like when they had theirs, they took it to the strip club and everything. They sat it down. Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
they
when
won the
Quavo-
Oscar.
Oh, the Oscar. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
When Quavo got the celebrity all-star MVP,
Yeah.
he took it out that night. And I was like, I mean,
Went to the club with it.
but that's respect, but I'm like, that's like a
Yeah.
all-star game thing. That's not like a full-on Oscar. They were like taking it around.
I would
To
have
him
done the
it was,
same.
so that
like,
was
like,
that
yo,
was his
my G,
win.
you know that's not an Oscar. You know what I'm saying? Bro, anyone could get that, bro.
Right?
Yo, Ari, thank you for stopping by, man. We appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Power 106.
All day,
Honored to
man.
be here, and really appreciate you guys having me.
The Beat on MSNBC, man.
Download the app.
Would you
Download
have
the
us
app.
on your show?
No cloud chasers.
And no cloud.
No cloud chasers.
Would you
So
have,
this is what
would you
we-
have us on your
This is
show?
what we want to do.
Or would
We
it be
want
too
to
messy?
No. Well, it's a fine line between spicy and messy.
Okay,
Right.
I like that.
That's
And
what we always say.
I'm into spicy
I
talk.
think Thomas Jefferson said that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To
that's-
quote the great Thomas Jefferson.
Bars, bro. Bars.
This is what we would love to do is if you guys are ever in New York for a reason,
All right.
the big thing we love to do is Fallback Friday. And we could do a Power 106 takeover because
Let's get
every Friday, like we did this with Stretch and Bobito, the
Yeah.
DJs, we had
Oh,
them do
yeah.
a takeover.
That's radio that changed lives, man.
We
Yeah.
did- So we do a full takeover, and then you guys come on and you basically say for that week who needs to fall back,
Oh, I love that.
and we have you on set in New York. So I don't know
love
when
that.
you guys get out, but whenever you get out, that's an open invite, and
Garcia will make it happen.
it's real.
Garcia, book the flights, my G. Let's get it.
Random question. Out of all presidents, who do you think would have been the best rapper?
Oh, that's a great
good
question.
one.
I will tell you, probably Teddy Roosevelt. He was the only president to write complete books while president.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
he would
yeah.
literally be president during the day, and then at night he wrote books that got published. And he wrote more books than the other president because he ultimately wrote like over 10 books.
Sure. So if anything, he'd be a dope ghostwriter.
Yeah,
So you know that he
definitely
can,
dope.
you know that he can write. You know he's good with the words. If you just said to him instead of doing this kind of book, you got to make it more like a book of rhymes. Yeah, I think he
Right,
could get
right,
there
right,
because he
right.
was
Ready,
right.
man?
He's always writing.
Favorite verse in hip hop?
I mean, a classic would be Jay-Z 99 Problems when he's pulled over on the side of the road.
Uh-huh.
Because as a lawyer, like he explains the entire
Are you
rules
lawyer?
of
something?
Fourth
Yeah, yeah.
Amendment
Right, right.
search and seizure law through the verse,
Uh-huh.
and it's tight.
You
And
remember the lyrics?
there's a whole. Yeah, I remember most lyrics. Like
Go for it.
he's like, you got to give me a second though.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
get
all day,
in
all
my
day.
head.
All day.
Wait a second.
Do you mind if I look around the car a little bit? Well, my glove compartment's locked, so is the trunk in the back. So you're going to need a warrant for that, which is a description of the plain view exception of Fourth Amendment search law. Like, he
Yes.
knows what he's talking about.
Straight up.
And the lawyer's like, oh, you a lawyer or something, you somebody important or something, and it's Jay-Z's voice doing the
Yeah.
officer, right? Which he explains in Decoded. He wanted to do both voices because he wanted to explain that the voice of the law, the officer, and the voice of, in that case, the hustler, who doesn't want to be a hustler but is living those choices,
Right.
are in some sense the same person.
And 3 artists that can do that very well is Hove, Biggie, Eminem.
Yes. And then he says, no, I ain't past the bar, but I know a little bit, enough that you can't illegally search my shit.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so that, to me, that verse has so much. And again, and people, the thing about hip hop, like anything else, is at a distance, it's blurry. If you come up close and you spend the time with it, people hear that song and they think, oh, it uses the B word. It's about doing crime. That's what some people think.
Sure.
And you actually listen to it, it's like, it's not about doing crime. It's about how he needed to get, but first of all, he was in a car with other people, right? Not everyone there is necessarily culpable for everything that could go down.
Yeah.
It was his knowledge in the story that gets him out from that situation. And what do we know about the rest of his life? He didn't want to deal drugs. He wanted to make music. He wanted to make a business. He wanted to make a family, right? So if you then look back at that song with the arc of what we know today, you're like, this is a young person in a situation who, once he gets out of that situation, is great for society, right? One of the questions we ask in law is like, well, how much do you punish? How much do you rehabilitate? Society's better off with that young man, that Sean Carter, going out to create $1 billion business than stuck in some cell because he got pulled over one night because there were drugs in the car. Even though you could say, you know what, it'd be better if there weren't drugs in the car. It'd be better not to deal drugs, obviously. So to me, that's one of my favorite verses.
Yo, dog, you passed the bar exam and you quote bars on your show. I like that. I like that.
There
dog.
it is, bars
like
to
that.
bars. I like that.
Yeah,
I like
man.
that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, man. Ari Melber, MSNBC, The Beat, catch the show. Thank you for stopping by, bro.
Thank you
Appreciate
guys,
it,
and
man.
come to Fallback Friday. Let's
We're
make it
gonna do
real.
We're not falling back on Fallback Friday.
No, we're making that happen
We're
straight
making
up.
it
It's the
happen.
Cruz Show, Power 106, #1 for hip hop.